Millions of people fly into Thailand every single year. They land in Bangkok, they scroll through the same 10 photos of Phi Phi Lay, they buy the same bucket list t-shirt, and they leave believing they've seen it. They haven't. Because tucked past the ferry docks, past the beach clubs, past the postcard version of this country, there is a chain of islands so strange, so contradictory, so achingly beautiful that even people who grew up here spend a lifetime discovering new corners of it. This is not the Thailand you've seen on Instagram. This is the Thailand that starts where the tour groups turn around. Somewhere between the Andaman Sea and the Gulf of Thailand, more than 1,500 islands rise out of the water. 1,500. Most travelers can name 3. The rest sit there, mostly unbothered, doing what they've done for thousands of years, growing coral gardens in silence, hiding fishing villages in their bays, keeping their legends to themselves. Some of these islands were formed by limestone that pushed up from the seafloor 65 million years ago, sculpted by monsoon rain into shapes so surreal that when the first Western sailors saw them, they wrote home saying they didn't believe what they were looking at. Karst towers wrapped in jungle, floating in emerald water, looking like something a movie art department would reject for being too much. Nature didn't get the memo about subtlety here. But here's what almost nobody tells you. The paradise everyone photographs is only the entry fee. The real story is behind it. Let's start with the islands almost no outsider ever reaches. Off the western coast, past the range of the date trip boats, there's a scattering of islands where the only residents are the Moken, sometimes called the sea nomads. For generations, entire families lived on wooden boats, moving with the monsoon seasons, diving for shellfish, reading the ocean the way most of us read a room. Children here learn to swim before they can walk properly on land. Elders can supposedly slow their heart rate and adjust their eyesight underwater. A claim researchers have actually studied, because Moken children were found to see almost twice as clearly underwater as children raised on land. Their eyes physically adapt. Not because of genetics. Because of practice, generation after generation, staring into the blue until the blue stared back differently. In 2004, this knowledge saved lives. When the tsunami came, most coastal communities had no warning. But the Moken elders read the signs the sea gave them, the retreating water, the panicked animals, the silence, and moved their people to high ground before the wave hit. An entire community survived, almost untouched, because of knowledge that isn't written in any guidebook. Try finding that on a resort brochure. That's the thing about these islands. The version sold to tourists is real, but it's a fraction. Underneath the infinity pools and the sunset cocktails, there's a country of people who have negotiated a relationship with the ocean that most of the world forgot how to have. Now travel east, toward the Gulf side, and the story changes completely. Here, on islands like Koh Phi Phi, the economy isn't built on beach chairs, it's built on certification cards. This tiny island, barely 21 square kilometers, somehow became one of the highest volume dive training grounds on Earth. More people get their first scuba certification here than almost anywhere else on the planet. Why? Because beneath the surface sits Chumpon Pinnacle and Sail Rock, granite formations rising from the seabed like cathedral spires, patrolled by whale sharks that can stretch longer than a school bus and weigh more than a fully loaded truck. Divers come for a weekend course and leave with a certification card and, more often than they'd admit, a plane ticket back 6 months later. The island has a name among backpackers, the place people go for 3 days and stay for 3 years.
But here's where it gets interesting. 20 years ago, Koh Phi Phi's coral reefs were dying, bleached, stripped, suffocated by runoff and careless anchors. Instead of walking away, the dive community did something rare. They built the largest coral nursery network in the Gulf of Thailand, staffed almost entirely by volunteers who fund their own stay by working odd shifts at dive shops. Coral fragments are grown on frames underwater, nursed for months, then transplanted onto damaged reef. It's slow. It's unglamorous. It's also working. Reef coverage around parts of the island has measurably recovered. This isn't a government initiative. It's mostly 20-somethings who fell in love with a reef and refused to let it disappear on their watch. Everything changes the moment you leave the tourist trail, and nowhere is that more obvious than in the fishing villages that still exist a short boat ride from the loudest beach parties in the country. On islands like Koh Phi Phi, sandwiched almost exactly between Phuket and Krabi, two of the most visited destinations in Southeast Asia, life still runs on tide charts instead of happy hour menus. Rubber tapping happens before sunrise. Squid boats go out at dusk, lit up like floating constellations because squid are drawn to light. From a distance at night, the sea looks like it's holding a second sky. This is the contrast that defines these islands. 10 minutes by longtail boat from a 5-star resort pouring champagne into infinity pools, there are families who have fished the same reef for 4 generations, who still hand-carve the spirit houses that sit outside every home, a small shrine meant to give the land's original spirits somewhere comfortable to live instead of causing mischief in the main house. Even the most modern resorts on these islands maintain them. Ask any local why, and they won't roll their eyes at the question. They'll just say it's respectful. You don't build on land without acknowledging what was there first. Which brings us to something almost every visitor walks past without noticing. Scattered across Thailand's southern islands are ancient cave paintings, some estimated to be over 3,000 years old, depicting boats, animals, and human figures in red ochre pigment on limestone walls. Viking Cave on Phi Phi Leg gets its name not from actual Vikings, but from ancient ship carvings early European sailors mistook for Norse longboats. For centuries, local fishermen have climbed the cave's sheer walls using nothing but bamboo scaffolding to harvest swiftlet nests, the key ingredient in bird's nest soup, a delicacy that can sell for more per kilogram than silver. It's one of the most dangerous harvesting jobs in the country, passed down through families who guard their climbing routes like trade secrets, because the birds return to the same nest generation after generation, and so do the harvesters. Now let's talk about the version of Thailand that gets all the attention because it deserves some credit too, even if it isn't the whole picture. The limestone cliffs of Railay and the surreal towers of Phang Nga Bay aren't just pretty. They're part of one of the most geologically unique landscapes on the planet, a flooded karst system that took millions of years to form and exists in only a handful of places on Earth in this concentration. James Bond Island earned its nickname after a single scene in a 1974 film, and the attention never left. Today it receives so many boats daily that local authorities had to introduce rotating access limits just to keep the site from eroding under the weight of its own fame. That's the paradox of paradise. The more beautiful a place is, the faster it risks being loved to death. And that tension, between showing the world what you have and protecting it from that same attention, sits underneath almost everything happening on these islands right now. Take Maya Bay, the beach made famous by a Hollywood film in the year 2000. Within a few years, it was receiving thousands of visitors a day, boat engines and sunscreen slowly killing off 80% of the surrounding coral reef. In 2018, Thai authorities did something almost no tourism board in the world was willing to do. They closed it. Completely. Not for a season, for years. Marine biologists moved in instead of tour boats. Reef restoration began. Black-tip reef sharks, which had vanished from the bay for over a decade, started coming back to breed in the shallows within months of the closure. When Maya Bay finally reopened, visitor numbers were capped, boats were banned from entering the bay directly, and a new floating pier was built specifically to protect the seabed. It's not the same experience tourists had in 2000. It's arguably better because now there's actually something left to see. That decision tells you something important about where these islands are headed. There's a real fight happening here quietly between two versions of the future. In one version, unchecked development wins. More resorts, more speedboats, more concrete creeping toward the waterline, until the very thing people traveled here to see is diluted into something forgettable. In the other version, islands like Koh Phi Phi's volunteer reef builders and Maya Bay's closure become the blueprint, proof that tourism and preservation aren't automatically enemies, if the people in charge are willing to make hard, occasionally unpopular decisions. Compare that to what's happened elsewhere in the region. In parts of the Philippines and Indonesia, overdevelopment moved faster than regulation, and some islands are still trying to claw back reef systems that took decades to damage. Thailand isn't perfect, nowhere close, but its willingness to actually shut down one of its most profitable tourist sites at real financial cost put it ahead of most of its neighbors in this particular fight. Malaysia's Sipadan Island took a similar approach years earlier, banning all overnight accommodation on the island itself to protect its reef, and it remains one of the healthiest dive sites in Southeast Asia because of it. The islands that survive the next 50 years won't be the ones with the most infinity pools. They'll be the ones that figured out restraint. So why does any of this matter if you're never going to hop on a long-tail boat yourself? 'Cause these islands are a small, vivid example of a much bigger question every coastline on Earth is quietly asking right now. How much can we take from a place before it stops being the place we came for? The Moken reading the ocean for warning signs. Koh Tao divers grafting coral by hand. The officials willing to close a famous beach and eat the financial loss. None of it is glamorous. All of it is the actual work of keeping something extraordinary from disappearing. There are two futures sitting in front of these islands. In one, the karst towers of Phang Nga Bay are still standing in 100 years, still rising out of turquoise water, but the reefs beneath them are bleached and empty, the fishing villages are gone, replaced by identical resort chains, and the sea nomads exist only in museum placards. In the other future, the towers are still standing too, but so is everything underneath them. Coral. The squid boats lighting up the night sea. The spirit houses outside every home. The knowledge passed from a grandmother's eyes to her granddaughters, about how to read a wave before it becomes a warning. Which future actually happens depends less on the islands, and more on every person who decides to visit them, what they choose to notice, what they choose to protect, and whether they leave anything behind besides footprints. So, which of these islands surprised you the most? The ones you'd already heard of, or the ones you're only now finding out exist? Would you actually get on a boat to the places most tourists never reach? And where should this journey go next? Because Thailand is only the beginning of what's hiding in plain sight across this part of the world. If this story pulled you in, stay with us. Like it, subscribe, and come along as we keep uncovering the places the rest of the world keeps walking past.